Meeting of the Public Health, Safety, and Transportation Committee to order. The date is the 10th of March. Time is 4 p.m. In attendance with us today is Alderwoman Smith, Alderman Bugg, Alderman Nunez, Alderman Seville, myself, Alderman Franco. First item is 260100, approve of the minutes from the Public Health, Safety, and Transportation Committee held on February 10, 2026.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderwoman Smith, second by Alderman Seville. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes 5-0. Clerk, is there anybody from the public wishing to make a public comment?
No one has signed up.
Okay, thank you. All right, then we'll go to the meat of the agenda, 25-0795, a resolution authorizing a one-year contract with Air One Equipment for the purchase of protective gear for the fire department in the amount not to exceed $316,000 with two optional one-year extensions.
Good afternoon, Phil Bergeron, Division Chief of Training. So this is just to cover our fire gear, our protective clothing. It's NFPA recommends every 10 years. So what we do is we're about 20 sets of gear a year. So this is what we've been wearing for a while now, and we'd like to continue with Air One.
Questions from the committee?
Just a question.
Go ahead, Alderman.
You want an extra set?
I would like an
He
extra
wants
set,
a set
yes.
for himself.
How many individuals will the contract cover then? How many sets of full get-up will be covered under this?
So that's that total number is what's in that account. That's our all
Oh.
clothing. That's all uniform and everything else.
Okay.
If down in the bottom, it's not to exceed 160,000 because we also have repairs. So as gear gets torn up, guys need them repaired. So Air One also is our contractor for repairing it.
Okay, so the
So
attachment
we're
is
looking
just-
at 20 sets, which is, well, actually 18 sets, which is about $66,000 for 18 full sets.
Okay. I appreciate the clarity on that, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
I have a question. I'm just trying to piecemeal this. So our supplier is Air One, and they have equipment, is globe protective equipment. What is this MSA? I mean, are these two different entities? I'm trying to figure out how they go together.
So, yeah, Globe is the manufacturer of our actual structural firefighting gear ensemble.
Okay.
MSA is the manufacturer for the fire helmet itself.
And they're all fall under the same umbrella?
Yes.
Okay. And that's kind of what I'm trying to piecemeal. It seemed like that, but I wasn't quite sure because it had two different entities, and I didn't know how that worked out together, so.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, all right. Anybody else have any questions, comments?
Yes,
Alderman Bugg, go ahead.
thank you. Yeah, thank you for bringing this forward. I was just looking at the draft memo is from October, and of course, we're now here in March, and in the interim, this contract expired. What was the delay?
The delay was getting Air One to sign the contract from legal.
Okay.
Are you good?
Yeah, I mean, if we would have moved on this October 7th, hopefully we would have been done by December 31. So, all right.
All right.
Fire's always good about coming forward in timely manner, so sometimes there's hiccups.
Anything else come before, any other comments or questions? We have a motion by Alderwoman Smith. We have a second, I'm sorry. Second by Alderman Nunez. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against? And that passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is 26-0076, a resolution authorizing Director of Purchasing to enter into an agreement with LDV Custom Specialty Vehicles for the construction of a negotiator vehicle for the APD Crisis Negotiator Team in the amount not to exceed $200,000.
Good afternoon, committee. Lieutenant Tom McNamara with the Aurora Police Department. With me is Sergeant Jason Cuddebeck. He's going to handle some of the presentation in a little bit. The item before you is an item seeking resolution for us to spend $200,000 in drug funds or asset forfeiture funds, specifically from the Treasury, for the purchase or the outfitting of a new negotiator vehicle. Currently, The negotiator team for the past 20 years has been using the rear section of our command post. That is an aging vehicle that has been outfitted or retrofitted several times now to try to accommodate this. It's not really conducive to the work that's needed. Our crisis negotiator team is responding to more and more incidents every year, just the way things are going right now. The ability for us to try the best we can to de-escalate situations that they're needed in hopefully requires the ability for them to operate in the most efficient manner. The back of the command post currently, there's a diesel motor underneath of it that powers the whole bus. It's very loud. It's cramped quarters, and in these major incidents, you get a lot of supervisors on scene that congregate in the front portion of the bus to try to manage the critical incident. So there's kind of competing space going on right now. This is, like I said, this is a project that we have been going back and forth on for over a year with LDV, who is the preferred vendor here. The amount we budgeted for, $200,000, initially accounted for a 10% contingency. Just if you see that weird percentage of 6.8, that's because as we've gone on, prices have crept up a little bit. So we still think we are well within our budget there to hit the contingency. LDV itself is our preferred vendor on this. This is under a GSA contract. So they have provided their GSA number. They just re-upped their contract, good till 2030. There's a little bit of delay there for us to go back and forth on that to make sure that that was all in the right order for purchasing. Let's see what else I want to get at here. The vehicle, just mentioned this, it is in the Legistar, but the vehicle was purchased through the approved vehicle purchase order in 2024 through the city budget in anticipation of this project going forward in 25. That vehicle was delivered. The city spent $57,236.03 on that back in 24, or sorry, for the 24 purchase order on the vehicles for the city. So that is not part of this quote. So this $200,000 budget is specifically for the upfitting of the equipment and the interior of the van. With that, I'm gonna, unless there's any questions up front, we have a PowerPoint to go over. I'd like to do that with Sergeant Cuddebeck.
Sure.
And I'm assuming that got loaded up?
Yes, we have it.
Well, we have it in our iPads here, but I don't know if it's on the screen for the
No,
audience.
I don't see it, but.
Okay. I have it up on my screen right here, so we could just,
Yeah, we have it here, so.
yeah, okay. Again, like Lieutenant McNamara said, my name is Jason Cuddebeck. I'm a detective sergeant with the police department. Been with the agency for 18 years. I've been the team lead for the crisis negotiation team since roughly 2022. Been on the team since 2012. This project has been in the works before I even took over as the team, when Bill Rowley and Jerry Marrero were the team leads. And like Tom said, you know, as the years go by, the command post, we've kind of just outgrown it. The team's grown to 10 members. And during critical incidents, we've learned that we just need our own space. So if you turn, or on slide 2, the background, like I said, we've got 10 sworn officers. We've got 1 civilian social worker. She was named to the team last year. The team leads are myself and Sergeant Kaylee Young. Just background on what we do in order when we make the team, we attend the FBI crisis negotiation school, and we train a lot. We do monthly training, 8 hours a month. We also train with other crisis negotiation teams, Naperville, Elgin, FBI. We try to, make our training relevant and for the trends in our, in law enforcement. Half the team attends the crisis negotiation conference every year, which again, that's breakout sessions. There's 1 day of scenario-based training that the conference puts on. We always do that. We respond to numerous different types of incidents, criminal and non-criminal barricades, suicidal subjects, and the like. So In 2025, we were recognized by, the city for being named the Illinois Crisis Negotiation Team of the Year. There's a nice picture of the team. So that was nice. That stemmed from an incident that was presented to the conference and the board members, and they selected our team out of other teams in the state. So I'm on the slide entitled Statistics. I keep detailed spreadsheets of when we're used as a team. Since 2023, we've been used approximately 50 times, 51 times. I listed a bunch of examples here. Like even last night, we were called, there was a female jumper on a building, so we get called. I was working. Luckily, by the time we even were able to negotiate with this female, she came off the building. But those are type of incidents that we get called to. And with the 10 members plus the, we span across day shift, afternoons, and midnights. Why we need the van, this titled slide. This isn't exhaustive, but it's pretty good. Like I said, we've outgrown the command post. It's an aging vehicle, and it is, like Tom said, it's a competing space. And when there's critical incidents, when you've got command staff at the front, and we're in charge of contacting their sensitive conversations, and even though there is a divide, it's still a competing space. And even on scenes where they see the command post and people from other agencies, they're knocking on the back door. We could have a sign up that says negotiation in progress, and they still knock on our door, and it just interrupts the negotiation. So that's one of the big reasons why we need this van. Like the next independent controlled workspace during negotiations, separate from anything else. Our team needs to focus solely on the negotiation and bringing whatever incident is to a peaceful resolution. Again, like Tom says, we keep getting used more and more. There's more activations for our team. It's a trend. A lot of our situations are, non-criminal barricades with mental health consumers, and unfortunately, that trend's not going to go down anytime soon. I don't see that. Increased agency priority on de-escalation as a primary response strategy. Long gone are the days where dynamic entries are the way to go. We're surrounding, calling crisis negotiators to try to make contact with whoever's inside to try to bring it to a peaceful resolution before we have to, use some sort of dynamic entry. Improved communication capabilities. This van will be, as state of the art as it can be. That's way I tried to, when I met with LDV several times and communicating over the past year, we're trying to just make sure that we're future-proofing it for the future. And it'll improve our abilities communication-wise in these incidents. We have professionalism, public confidence, training readiness, team cohesion. This is consistent with modern policing. When I did research for this, I have found that there's not a lot of agencies with these vans, but with large agencies like us, they are trending more towards, separate vehicles for negotiators because it's such a critical, priority in terms of our response to a lot of different calls. So I just put a slide. This is our actual van. What does the van look like? It's a 2020 Ford Transit 350XL. Like Tom says, we got it in 2024. It's been sitting over at Central Grad for a while now. So in terms of this project, I'll drive it up to Burlington, Wisconsin, back down when the project is completed. When I sat down with LDV, we set specific goals for the interior of the van. We want it to be modern, up to date with technology. We have each workstation is outfitted with like an HDMI, Ethernet, everything that we can communicate throughout the van. Like I said before, we're future-proofing in the technology so it remains relevant for years. There's a dedicated negotiation environment, and I've got some schematics in this slide, but there'll be a divider, but it'll be with our team. So our team will be at the front. There's workstations up there for intelligence purposes, and it's different than the way there's a divider in the command post. Those people are doing completely separate things. They'll know, our people at the front of the bus of this CNT van will know exactly how sensitive the information is and how sensitive and important the conversation is in the back of the bus. So it'll store our current gear. So we went with LDV. I had communicated with Tracy Archer. He does the command post stuff. He provided me a contact with LDV, and I started communicating with them. I knew that there was a past history with the city of Aurora. And I knew that they were kind of a preferred vendor for us. So they were very professional throughout the process, accommodated our needs, my needs for what I wanted on the van. And that's kind of how we went with this company. The costs, you guys can see what it is. Honestly, guys, I don't know. I know what GSA is. Here's the discounts, I don't know, maybe Tom could speak on that more, but there is the contingency. The project won't exceed $200,000, but the final bid cost was that $186,484. So, and that is, like Tom said, it's just for the upfit. So, if you go to the interior schematics, slide 12, you can see that the van is sectioned off. So the rear of the van will be the main NOC, the Negotiations Operations Center, where there'll be a peninsula-style table for 2 negotiators. It's not going to be a huge area, but there'll be a dry erase board, and there'll be another person in the back. We call them a scribe. They jot down specifics about negotiations, the target, themes that we want to stay away from, themes that hooks that we want to use, if there's weapons involved, wants, needs, anything like that. So there'll be a jump chair in the back that'll fold down for another person. There'll be ample storage in the back, like I said, above the heads of the people. And if you can see on this, all workstations will have their individual power, HDMI ports if they want to put their computers, if they want to throw it up to a monitor, Ethernet, and USB-C in the back there. So for charging stuff and everything like that. So there will be a divider, and then at the front of the bus, there'll be a designated on one side for 2 workspaces. There'll be a monitor affixed to the wall, more storage above, and inevitably, we always want as many negotiators on a scene as possible to gather intelligence, to feed real-time intelligence to the people who are actually doing the talking. So slide 13 is just from the other side. You can see that, that would be the scribe. There's a dry erase board in the back. And then what you see in the middle is the inverter. The van will run on an inverter, so the van should be running as much as possible. However, it does have a battery which can run the van for a couple hours without the vehicle running. If for some reason we couldn't do that. There's one HVAC at the top. I went with what LDV told me. They said that will be sufficient for the entire van. The overhead is just kind of another schematic. The front passenger seat will have a swivel chair. There'll be a hole in the floor, and we can put another workspace there if there's a third team member up front. And then like slide 15, this is obviously not our van, but I went through LDV and I researched what it's going to look like, and this is going to be similar to what the front of the van will look like. Like I said, slide 15 with the 2 workspaces, with the overhead cabin storage. And then slide 16 will be similar to what we have in ours. They'll have a peninsula-style table back there with the coach and the primary negotiator being able to sit across from one another to listen and complete the negotiation. Slide 17, this is going to be similar to what the divider will be in the van. Obviously, This is a little bit different of a layout. I just put this in there just to show the divider from the front and the rear. Slide 18 shows the front passenger seat that swivels to make a third workstation up front if we need it. And that's it for the PowerPoint. Are there any specific questions about any of this that I can answer for you guys?
Questions from the committee? Alderman Seville.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, just curious. I support what you're doing here. I think it's a great idea. But I just question, I'm curious, how do you future-proof technology?
Well, that's a good question. Like I said, like some of the command posts that don't have USB-C ports, it's going to have that. We try to think of like what potentially we could be using in the future. Like, and that's basically, we wanted HDMI ports in case we're putting more monitors up. The USB-Cs, the USB-As in the back, every station will have those. So that's about the best we could do in terms of, thinking more towards the future. And I brought that up to the LDV representative, and that's basically said that was consistent with what other agencies were doing
Okay.
in terms of like looking forward to the future.
Yeah, good idea. Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions? Alderman Nunez?
Last month, I did a ride-along with APD, and I saw the command post, so I know exactly how tight that space is back there.
Yep.
And one question I have is, you talked about sensitive conversations and information as you're negotiating.
Yes, sir.
How many officers do we plan to, when there is an incident, are going to be in this new vehicle versus when you're sharing that space and there's more bodies and ears that could be listening in? How do we control how many individuals are potentially exposed to this information?
Yeah, my team, there'll be 3 in the back in theory, and sometimes it's personnel relate. If I don't have as many negotiators working, or I can't get people to the scene, or they're responding from home, in the back, there'll be no more than 3 people. The front, and it's just a Ford Transit van, it's not a huge thing. So it's like the front, I couldn't imagine us having more than 3 people in there. So a total of 6 at the most, I would think. We're still going to have somebody in the command post with our SRT command, because another thing with negotiations, we use, when we use the phone, like we have different dynamic monitoring that all the people in the agent, or all the people on the team can listen. So if there's something going on in the back, we're all listening to it, and we can send messages to somebody to get information to the back, intelligence or whatever. So, but regard to your question, no more than 6 people in this transit van. So even though there are 10 on the team, it's not meant for everybody. A negotiator doesn't require 10 people to be in this van.
And going from that small space in the back of the post to this, is there a measurable, is there like a 70% increase in space that your team will have? Is there a 60% increase in space? What's that look like?
You know what? The reason the command post got stuffy was because the problem is you have your primary coach in the back of the command post, and then all the intelligence people are back there too. So they're on their phones. There's people opening the door. So we ran out of that space because we had nobody. If we had another space to put other people, it'd be fine. But the problem is it's very distracting when the door's opening. It's just so. Yeah, that's. I don't know if that answered your question, but
I was just, what the work you do, as Alderman Seville mentioned, is important and vital. 51 calls over 2 years is,
yeah,
that's not lightweight work there. So,
Yeah.
if it's a 60%, again, I don't need a measurable. I was just trying to get a better visual and understanding of the workspace that you all need to be able to do the important work you do. That's all.
Yeah, I don't know if it's that huge of an upgrade. It's just separate from the command staff.
Less noise.
Which is like,
Less outside
exactly.
noise.
And that's really the main thing for us, where it's just like, we just need our own space in terms of we can't have distractions.
Mhm.
That's when negotiators they look up and then they forget what somebody says, and then all the rapport you just built could get shot down. So it's just important for us to.
Great insight. Thank you.
Another, kind of going along that theme though, something I did not mention, but it is in the Legistar. This vehicle is able to be driven by anybody with a driver's license. Versus the command post, it's a huge vehicle. You're specially trained to drive that. We call them command post operators. A command post operator may be, but very likely is not a crisis negotiator. So even if there's not a crisis negotiator working, anybody at the police station, if an event is occurring, can hop in this vehicle, drive it to the scene, and meet up with a crisis negotiator or their crisis negotiator team if they're responding from home or elsewhere in the city. So I would expect that this vehicle would be used quite a bit more than we're currently pulling the command post out for these types of situations.
Makes sense.
Any other questions or comments?
Second.
All right, so we have a motion by Alderman Nunez, second by Alderwoman Smith. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Next item on the agenda is 26-0151, a discussion of parking and speed studies.
Good afternoon. I'm Kevin Anderson, City Traffic Engineer. It's my understanding that the members of the committee would like to be better informed of my activities, and after discussing this with the Director of Public Works, who's behind me, we're envisioning that I prepare like a written report, updated periodically, perhaps quarterly, to provide current status of our traffic signal projects, other roadway projects, ongoing studies, major studies requested by the city, members of the City Council, and other items of significance. So for example, items I would have listed in the first quarter 2026 report would be our 5 West Indian Trail traffic signals were turned on in early March. The interconnect will be installed hopefully later this month, and then eventually, probably in the next 6 to 8 weeks, the signals will be transferred to our own maintenance, officially from the contractor to us. Next items, Montgomery Road, Couts Road traffic signals. Anticipated construction will start in April and be complete hopefully in June. Hill and Montgomery traffic signals, that's still in an engineering study. We're wrapping it up. Like the next major step after design approval from IDOT will be the land acquisition. Construction right now looks like it won't happen until 2028. Another item is traffic signal and camera network upgrade study. We received the network consultant's preliminary report maybe about a month ago, and we're working with IT to implement the consultant's recommendations. So still evaluating what needs to be done and how best to do it. It'll take several years to make all the upgrades.
Can you elaborate on that just a little bit? That particular one, can you elaborate on that just?
Oh, sure. Okay, so I don't have the exact number, but 100 and something of our 128 traffic signals are connected to our central management system called Centrax. And then also the detection cameras and surveillance cameras that are connected to the traffic signal network are on it. And the system got expanded incrementally, piecemeal with no overall plan. And when it was just traffic signals, the network could support that kind of communication. But when you kept adding video after video, system, it got to be too much. And then I'm not a network engineer, but from my understanding, they call them broadcast storms, where cameras will go out or won't be visible, to the viewers because the communication just gets scrambled, that sort of thing. So it's primarily the police department that uses those cameras. I do look at them on occasion, maybe several times a week, to investigate a complaint. Like someone said, this happened at a traffic signal. I can rewind the tape, in many locations. Or if someone says, oh, the street light went out at that corner, I can look at the video and take a look and then send out our maintenance crew or a contractor, that does that. So The report recommends that we add some network switches. There's all sorts of stuff that I don't fully understand, but has to do with changing IP addresses and something about gateways and updating those. But so it's a mix of hardware that needs to be added and a mix of and some settings that need to be implemented. In a few weeks, we'll be awarding an engineering contractor or selecting the consulting firm, I should say, for engineering for the Filter Road Highway Safety Improvement Project. That's the curves, be adding some an RRFB beacon for the Prairie Path crossing and high friction asphalt on the curves between the I-88 westbound ramps and to the west, past DuPage Parkway. I'm working on preparing a revision to the city truck route map. This came at the suggestion of the traffic division of the police department, and I agree it is in need of updating. One, to be more accurate. Two, there's been an update in state law about 5 years ago. It changes a few things about truck routes. So I'll be working with the police department and kind of refining a draft and then showing that to the mayor's office. Then at some point, though, it'll require action on the city council's part. Also evaluating speed limits on city streets. Been an ongoing project. They've been assembling a database of all the city's street signs. And one of the things I want to see is check the speed limits and if there's anything unusual or anything that needs to be evaluated. So they're still working on processing the GIS database, but the GIS division is going to be preparing a map for me so I can just see at a glance, like it'll be color coded. So I can look at the speed limits and see if there's anything that should be raised, well, probably not raised, but more likely lowered, especially if it's a residential street. And then also working on a citywide policy for altering street parking. Now, the mayor's office recently sent out directions to city staff on creating citywide policies, and this seems like this would be an application for one. So I get many requests to add or remove parking on one side, sometimes both sides of the street, and or to add overnight parking restrictions. But the Code of Ordinances does not really give my position the authority just to change parking, just on a whim. Generally, if it has to do with improving safety or traffic flow, well then, my position's authorized to have those signs changed. So that's something also I'll need to be working with the mayor's office to kind of develop a process. But the idea was just conceived a few weeks ago, so there hasn't been much done on that. And then another thing I'm working on is updating our GIS database, basically where we can map out our traffic signals, just trying to put all of our information on our traffic signals in one place. And then for me, it'd have more information than most people would care about, but information others would care about that might be helpful is, okay, which traffic signals are the city's responsibility, which are IDOT's, which are the different counties, and or which are outside our limits, the ones that are nearby. So those would be the items I would have included in this quarter's, well, assuming if it's quarterly, it would be like this quarter's report. I'd probably have it, I'd expect it to be written, and I'd probably put in a little more information, a little more of a narrative. I mean, I'm trying to cover like just the dot points here. So, and then member of city council is interested in my conducting a study of parking speed or otherwise, I think most of you have been doing this, but going through one of your aides to go enter the ticket in the OneView/311 system. I think I've had some, well, that's not necessary, but I think now that I've been doing this for over years, like I need a way to be able to track these. Otherwise, I got separate systems. Okay, it's email marked unread or otherwise versus then having in the OneView. So, but OneView has a built-in system to have questions asked or answered, and can provide updates on there. So, another idea we had is, as decided to make some changes to the signs, it could CC Rich Jacobs, the chief aide, I'm not sure but CC him on our emails to the streets division, with the directions of what signs to add and where. So at least you can see, okay, what signs are being added. It's not really asking for your input, but at least you're aware of what signs are being added. Maybe you see those and get ideas, hey, that might be something I'd want at an intersection or a street in your own ward. So also I'd be happy to meet with any members of the city council one-on-one. I have met with several of you in the past. If you have any questions to talk about anything specific or general traffic.
So let me chime in real quick.
Sure.
I'm glad you went, when you're telling us about the updates with the signals, I'm like, that's good, and then you hit a lot of good points after that we should do it. But, one of the things that I thought we would be looking at, and maybe you're going to, I'm sorry I cut you off, is that the consistency with signs throughout the city. Now, I know every area might be a little bit different how the traffic is, but I've seen areas where a block, it says no parking here, no parking at school nights, no parking, so it's like all jumbled. So are we going to address as much as we can the continuity of signs along those lines? Would that be a project that we could do? Because I think it would be better, if we could do that within reason. Obviously, things are changed, but is that something we could put on the radar?
Yes, actually, I have thought of it. I didn't actually put in an item here, but I did have a conversation with our streets superintendent as the data are coming in for the GIS system with their sign inventory. Someone observed we had over 50 different kinds of parking signs.
Yeah.
And
Well, we do.
still need a lot,
Right.
but I think we can reduce the number. I know I do get complaints about inconsistencies, okay, there's a block that has parking allowed on one side but not the other, but then the very next block's the same width, allows parking on both sides. And I'm just reluctant to make changes because I don't see any necessary safety, issue, but it is inconsistent. But if I want to add parking restrictions, well, then I'm probably going to get complaints the other way. So that's part of the reason why I want to have, I want to develop this citywide policy on changing parking, so I can get input from the alder person, and if they want to stand by it and say, hey, I think this is what we need,
Well, I'll go into an example of that. Parking by Aurora University, when most of it was in the 5th Ward, I had dealt with some people there, and what we did would have been a little bit inconsistent with the plan, but because of the nature of that animal over there, it was necessary. So you may not have known that, but an alderman would. So yes, keeping them in the loop, because sometimes there's just one of those odd situations that can't be explained 20 years from now. But if you look back on why we did it and had the reasoning for it, then it would say, okay, now it makes sense. So I understand that it could be a little bit different in different areas, but when you can make it as consistent as you can, that would be the better thing to do.
Yeah,
So, all right.
it's definitely, it's desirable to have signs consistent throughout the city, like how you treat stops or
Right.
intersections and stop signs and
Sure.
that sort of thing.
And then I would say the amount of signs. Now, I just drove by, I live by Washington Middle School, and on a 2-block stretch, there's 18 signs. 18, some of them have to do with the school, but there's so much. So would we look at sign everywhere, a sign? We don't want an overburden of signs. So, could we look at the amount of signage too? It just doesn't, it's not a, not pleasing to the eye. Obviously, you need some signs, but can we reduce some of the signage? And that would be another thing I would look at. And then
Sure.
while I'm on this topic, because we're right by Washington, and I live over there, I had put in, and this was be a traffic study, the blinking solar signs, because it's by a school, and I live over there, and I've been there for a number of years, and I'm gonna say 30% of the people don't stop. So I put the signs in. Now, I didn't do a technical survey, and still only 30% of the people stop. So my point on that is, could we or should we do studies to see if those are even effective? Because if I'm going to spend $7,000 for a stop sign that blinks and nobody's paying attention to it, then we could say we've shown the data and it doesn't work and we're going to save our money. Because you're not going to stop at a stop sign. You're not going to stop if it's blinking or, they do a dance on top of it. So that would be something I guess I would suggest maybe look at too, because if it doesn't make sense, why are we doing it? I'm trying to nitpick a few things, but these are the things that I actually see that I guess each alderman could say in their ward. But if we could do some studies on that too, just to save us money, that would be a good
Sure.
idea also.
Well, the part of the sign inventory is like they're evaluating reflectivity of the signs, and that means if they're too old, and
Right.
so I think they're discovering that they're going to have to be replacing a lot of signs. So
Mhm.
I'm expecting the streets division to come to me. Well, I'll go to them, or we'll have a discussion on what signs should be replaced first. What signs do they even need to be replaced? I mean, obviously stop signs, speed limit signs, and major warning signs, going to be replaced. But parking signs, I think there are some places they're not spaced far, close enough. But in a lot of cases, I think we have more signs than are absolutely necessary. So. And we're certainly, this is a good opportunity for us to
Sure.
evaluate, because it looks like there's going to be a lot of signs that will be needing to be replaced over the next few years. And so,
Okay.
we'll think carefully
Sure.
before we just
Right.
replace them without thinking,
Well,
without.
and that's the beauty of it, because now we have professionals looking at it through a professional lens. I mean, I could tell you what's good in my neighborhood, I can't tell you what's good in somebody else's neighborhood. So having the professionals like you guys out there saying, okay, well, across the board is what we should do. That one's a little unique, and that one's a little, we make an exception, but we like it coming from you guys, because you do that for a living, so, good.
Sure.
Did you have a question, Alderman?
I do.
Smith, go ahead.
I do. I'm going to go back towards the top of your list. You brought up the traffic light at Montgomery and Coutts Road.
Yes,
You said it's going to start in April,
yes,
be completed in June?
hopefully.
I've gone through several of these, June of this year?
Yes.
I've gone
Yeah.
through several of these lights with you guys. That's a really quick turnaround.
I think, we just had a pre-construction meeting, so it's just a single traffic signal. Now there are some earthworks, they're adding a westbound and northbound right turn lane, so it's
Okay.
more than just signals, but it's a small area of new pavement. So it should be straightforward. It's new signal. I mean, I guess also depends on ComEd's willingness to install the electric service. Sometimes they can take a while, but I mean, if all goes well,
Okay.
I know they've ordered the components, and they're going to be available to the contractor. I forget the exact time frame, but in the time frame that'll work, that they could start in
Great.
April.
That's good news. Thank you.
Alderman Seville.
Yes, thank you, Chair Franco. So thank you for the report. I think for the first one, it was very informative, and I think I appreciated hearing what's going on, not only in my ward, but throughout the city. So I think it's going to be very helpful moving forward in the future with you here being invited to our committee. So one thing I want to bring out is in your survey, you're looking at the different blocks, and it doesn't appear to be any rhyme or reason. One side you can park on one side, one street you can park on the other. You can park on both sides, and it's kind of staggered, even though they're the same width. Do you go back in time with regard to any previous surveys and petitions that were garnered from the respective aldermen or alderwoman and neighbors requesting this? Because that's something that you need to keep in mind with you. If you're looking to take something down, there may have been a reason why they're up in the first place that we don't
Well,
know
there's-
anymore.
Well, there's
so.
always a reason that and they often get forgotten due to time. Now, I don't think
Exactly.
there's a lot that's available in that regard on our network, just, in the engineering files to see, this got put up for this reason. And unfortunately, well, fortunately, unfortunately, we've had a lot of retirements, so a lot of institutional knowledge retired on me. Like, so I try to pick, their brains. There's a gentleman who has reviewed a lot of development plans, but he seemed to kind of have a good sense of, when something happened, and so to use a resource. I mean, I guess if I really had to contact him, I do have a way to reach out to him, but I don't want to pester him too much. But yeah, the previous street superintendent retired last summer, so he was a good resource. He seemed to know a lot, why something was done and when. So
our
it seems
records
like
aren't
it's-
so good, is that what you're saying?
Pardon?
Are you saying our records aren't so good?
Say it.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, if they're records, I'm not sure where they're kept. But if they're paper
In their
records,
heads.
who knows where the paper
Yeah.
records ended up? They might be old.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
I mean, I think stuff that's been saved on our computer files, they're easier to find.
Well, I'm hoping that once you undertake, and it's a very necessary survey, and I appreciate that, that you don't just start taking out signs without communicating with the respective aldermen
Yes,
and the like
agreed.
too. I think that's very important. Because I'm thinking about some signage in my ward, where if you can go up and down this one street, the width is the same, however, you've got no parking in certain areas, and other areas you can. Doesn't make any sense until you look at what's going on in the surrounding neighborhood, which is this multifamily housing and commercial, and they didn't want intrusions into their single-family neighborhood. And that's why some no parking signs were put up. So it would be a huge change to, just take them down and without any input and resulting
Right. No,
outcries
so that's
that could
why I
occur,
don't like to
So,
make
yeah.
any changes like that. Okay, adding a no parking here at a corner, or no parking between signs on the curve. Yeah, that's something like that I'll put up without worry. But I don't want to take out parking because people might depend on it, or or the other way. People. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, so it sounds like having that citywide policy or process about parking signs would, it would involve, the intent would be to involve the alder person, of the respective
Appreciate
wards, so
it.
it sounds like.
Thanks. And Kevin,
this will
in
help.
your next reports, will you be including those constituents either through the 311 system or contacting the city and emailing and the aldermen, requesting things? Will that be part of your report too?
I don't think I'd include the whole list of,
There's a lot, you mean?
yeah, it's a lot.
Just include my ward.
Nah. Alderman, or
I mean,
Chairman, I have another question.
But if you'd like it, if you want, I mean, if it's a request that comes from you, or another member of the council,
Well, I can only speak for myself, but I think the other aldermen and alderwomen would find it helpful to get updates on what's going on, so we can kind of keep track and inform our constituents too, since they're the one that's originally requested it, so.
Another possibility would be to just keep track of the OneView number, the 311 complaint number, and can communicate through that way too. And
Okay.
can try to work on, I know sometimes you can't get that and table it for a period, so there's not always updates, but that's another way
Sure.
to inquire about a specific item.
Yeah, I'm sure as we get into it, we'll refine this, and I appreciate
Sure.
you doing this, Kevin. Thanks. Good idea.
Alderman Bug?
Thank you. Thank you for coming today and enlightening us on some of this important information. This was began when I had a discussion with the chairman about parking and speed studies and such. And, well, let me just say, welcome to the city. I mean, you've been here a year now, but as you said, there was a lot of change. And if you go all the way back, you can find out where the signs came from, because once upon a time, every single sign came to committee, back when it was government operations. And I think, Carl, you sat on government operations. And you had a stint or two. Our dear friend Shakita Hart Burns led that committee for probably 2 decades or so. So that was the institution. Then we swung the pendulum the other way a little bit, and we didn't discuss every sign, every parking study, every speed study. but we are copied on some of that information. And like you said, there's been a number of changes, so we just want to establish some new protocols, some new policies on those things. Because as a ward alderman, of course, we drive around our wards every single day, and we talk to our residents pretty much daily. And when we're driving down the street and we see a new sign, that means a lot of different things to us. One, I've been talking to people on that street about that, or pro or con. I might have my own feelings about that sign being there. I might know the back motivations on why somebody requested that sign. And so to get all that together and see that you're taking action one way or the other, it's going to be important for us to know before the sign goes up. So when it goes over the streets, this is slated to go on Keating Drive next month. Okay, I know what's happening. Traffic engineer has approved it. Streets is going to do it. Maybe there's somebody I need to talk to, or maybe I need to give you a call, you know, and have a discussion. But your suggestion of copying some of that information to our chief of staff, that's many times the way that information gets to us, because they'll send it to all 12 of us, and especially the ward aldermen. But all, like your first one was Indian Trail. Indian Trail goes through what, 4 wards? So that impacts 1/3 of the council. So it's very important for everyone to know. So this is a great start. Thank you for the report. If you're able to, some of the points you had there, if you're able to get that even to Rich and he'll kind of get it to us in whatever form, that would be excellent. So I think Rich is over there. Oh, there he is. Way Rich. So yeah, that would be great. So yeah, I think this is a good start.
Good, thank you. Alderwoman Smith.
Yeah, this is quick. I've been concerned recently, the last year or so, about the amount of street parking. And the concern is because when you've got people parking on both sides of a street in a neighborhood, there is no room for emergency vehicles to get through. So I think that's something we also need to be considering as we go through the multiple stages of things that you just talked about. So, you know, I'll drive down the street and you'll have to stop to get through, and I'm thinking if a fire truck needed to get through here right now, it's not going to happen. It's going to take 8 cars with it. So I don't know if this is something that we will be able to address at some point, but it's, you know, it's emergency vehicles. It's a big deal. But it's also a very common thing for a neighborhood for people park on both sides of the street, but when the road's not wide enough for that to occur, it's problematic.
I did reach out to the fire department about this and asking if they had any streets that they were concerned about with parking being on both sides. And they said that they generally can get through. I mean, there might be an issue if there's an oncoming car and then the fire truck wants to go down, but I think there's always room for the fire truck to get by unless someone's not parking, you know, unless they're parking too far away from the curb.
Yeah.
You know,
This
so
is, yeah.
they should be able to get by. You know, just an approaching car might have to pull over, pull into a driveway, but usually there are enough driveways here and there that there's actually space for a car to pull over to make room for a fire truck to go by the other way.
All right, well, I'll follow up with Alderman Bug. What Alderman Bug said, we tend to know our wards really well.
But if you have-
And we understand how much room it takes for a fire truck to get by. It's just one of those things that as we go through this process, which has been great, which you've shared with us today, this is something we should be looking at as well, so. Because
But
this
if
is-
you have any
this is public
suggestions or
safety.
requests, yeah, I'll certainly look at it.
Thank you.
So real quick on that, I want to piggyback on that because it just reminded me of something. When I was talking about the AU area, one of the reasons we addressed a little bit of parking on one side was they're very narrow streets. And when it snowed, they got even narrower. And then we
Sure.
didn't have garbage trucks and the safety vehicles, so that's why I did that. But on the other hand,
Plows can get through.
yeah, right. So on the other hand, with a couple of traffic managers a while back told me that, Alderman, if you have no parking or parking on one side of the street, you can expect more speeding. When you got parking, yes, when you got, it's a traffic calming measure that's unintentional. And so you know this, and you got cars, and you kind of got a little, this stuff, you're not going 35, you're going 25 or 20. So it is what it is, but that's why you see on open roads, they're flying, and streets, they kind of can't. So I think we need to take into consideration, if it's a safety situation, fine. But with speeding being a problem, we know it is, I think that kind of keeping that where we can would be a benefit for the people who complain about speeding. That was just something I was taught, so I'm sure you guys know about that. So
Yeah.
not a bad thing where applicable, so, all right. Anything else from anybody?
Motion to adjourn?
All right, thank you so much for that presentation. Wonderful to see it. Look forward to seeing it in writing and all this stuff, because I didn't write it all down, so thank you for
Are
that.
we doing this?
Well, you're welcome.
Are we doing this quarterly? Jason, are we?
Jason Bauer with the Department of Public Works. Kind of all coming together right now. So I think there, as Kevin mentioned, there's a number of policies we're going to have to talk about that we're going to have to start working on and vet all the different components of them. The reporting frequency would definitely be part of it, and whether that's coming to PHST or if it's similar to what he was describing with the sign shop. You know, does
Right.
every quarter, do we submit something to Rich to distribute so that you guys have the information? And then if there are, specific ones that we want to come back and talk about,
Right.
so that it doesn't take up, too much of your time, you can do it at your leisure. And then if there's specific things that you want reported on. So I think a lot of those things are still moving parts that we're trying to figure out internally. Again, like Kevin mentioned, we were discussing today about, what's an easy way to have a catch-all to make sure that you guys get the notice 2, 3, 4 weeks before a sign goes up. It's like, well, we have that email that goes from engineering to the sign shop. It's real easy to attach Rich. He distributes it to all of you. And then the same thing, if there's something you just have a small question on, you can just reach out to
Right.
staff and we can answer those. So I think the overall format and exactly how we move forward and what all gets contained, it's still kind of a work in progress that we'll have more. But yeah, probably on that note, if we're going to do, maybe we do look to do another quarterly report here in another, 3 months or so,
Right.
and then we can update on, maybe some of the progress on those
Right.
items.
Well, it is somewhat fluid, and if you get some significant stuff, you may not wait for a quarter. You might want to come the next month. So I think we could play it by ear. I would imagine once we get these policies new, checked out, affirmed, then maybe we can go with a particular routine. But until then, we could do more than that, because we just don't know, because there's a lot of moving parts of this. So
Right.
I think we could play it by ear. And if we ever want a report, we just ask for the report, and they come in the next meeting. Yeah.
Would we consider then forwarding that report to the committee of the whole and giving them the rest of the city council members an update?
Well, I think that quarterly report, our goal would be, we would probably, as a first step, that would go to Rich to distribute to all 12.
Right.
Just so, because, for us to determine which wards, you've got the alderman at large. As it was mentioned, we have roadways that, affect multiple aldermen all at one time with a specific project. So we would think that, at least for us, a good first step would be making sure that at a minimum, that quarterly report goes to Rich, because, whether they're all reviewing the PHST agenda in
Right.
advance or the attachments or anything like that.
Right.
Making sure that it's just on some sort of regular interval just for distribution, so that you're all at least aware of some of those larger traffic-related items like the ones he hit on today.
Right, okay. All right, that sounds good.
Sure.
All right. Thank you, appreciate it, Jason. I'm sorry, did we have a motion to adjourn? Motion to adjourn? Second by Alderman Nunez. All in favor, say aye. Aye. And we are adjourned at 4:58. Thank you.